breaking news today. Steve Keim is now indefinitely out of the not the Patriots organization, out of the Cardinals organization for health-related reasons. So since we have now seen this, it is pretty much good enough to start going into our first game of this week, the Patriots versus the Arizona Cardinals. Ricardo, what do you have to say to this before we get into the segment?
Well, before I get into the segment, there's some big changes that's looking like for this franchise and probably a lot sooner than we expected. But I don't want to give too much away before the segment, and this is big news.
It sure is. And with that, I'm Jose.
And I'm Ricardo.
Welcome back to RJ Talks. Ricardo, to start off, this was a better game for New England, I would say, but it was up against less than stellar talent. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So with that, Mac Jones had a pretty decent game. He threw for 24 of 35, 235 yards, and a single interception. He didn't have a touchdown pass in this game. And Pierre Strong Jr. was the one that came out with the touchdown, as well as Kevin Harris. Right? So we had 2 touchdowns in this game, and they were both by running backs, not the quarterback or any one of their receivers. The top receiving leader was Hunter Henry with 3 receptions and 70 yards. Okay, so again, we are seeing a low passing game and much more of a run game from the New England Patriots. It's nothing that's uncommon, right? And it seems as though the Cardinals were not the ones to catch up to this pattern that the New England Patriots had already set the previous weeks. All right. On top of that, too, unfortunately,
surprise.
Exactly. Yeah. And on top of that, too, the Arizona Cardinals are now without Steve Keim and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is out for the season, maybe even a season and a half with his ACL tear. As much flack as we give Kyler Murray, we would like to treat him like we would any other athlete that does get injured. It is a shame to see a professional athlete out for the season, somebody that pretty much is devoting their entire lives to this sport or any sport for that matter. So we just hope that his recovery is expeditious. Okay, so with that, Colt McCoy did have to step in for the Arizona Cardinals for this game. He threw for 27 of 40, 246 yards, and a single interception. All right. DeAndre Hopkins was the top receiving leader of this game. He had 7 receptions for 79 yards. So as far as on the offensive side of the ball, it was a pretty similar game from both ends, right? We did see more run game than we saw passing game. But for the Cardinals, though, it was slightly less run game, right? We had James Conner at the top of the list, 15 carries for 85 yards and a single touchdown. So again, it seems to be that they were the more effective side of the offense. Now, we did see some glimpses of Mac Jones being a solid competitor for the New England Patriots. Mac Jones, a couple of key moments that really come to mind for me is Mac Jones batting down a deflected pass to avoid an interception, right? This seems to be a pattern where he throws a ball, it gets batted up into the air, and then it gets caught for an interception, right? So it seems as though he's really starting to learn from his mistakes in that sense, right? The ball gets batted away, he sees it go up in the air, and he just jumps up, not even jumps up, but he just bats it down before it gets picked up by a defender. Another one, too, is Jones is falling as he was passing and which caused that interception. All right. So he was under pressure and he had his legs wrapped. So as soon as he threw that ball forward, unfortunately, there was a defender. So on the offensive standpoint, the Patriots didn't show us anything new. The Cardinals did not show us anything new. Okay. So it seems as though they're still the same old teams, and unfortunately, I believe for the Patriots, if anything, they're going to be making a wild card run, as we continue to say week in and week out. And the Cardinals, they're not going to make it there. That's just fact of the matter. So, Ricardo, this was more your game than anything. It's been a while since we've talked about the Arizona Cardinals, so I just wanted to have you take it away, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. It was definitely a game that left a lot to be desired on the offensive ball, as you tried to so eloquently hype up. as best he did.
Yeah.
But it was definitely battle of the two defenses. And I would talk about the Cardinals, but I'm more impressed about the new gem the New England Patriots found with their pass rusher.
Yeah, Jose, this definitely was a game that left a lot to be desired on the offensive end. And I'll give you credit, you made it a lot more interesting than it actually was, how this game was offensively. But this was definitely a game of defenses. Now, I would love to talk about the Cardinals defense, but to me, the real story of the game is the New England Patriots defense and their consistent pass rush, specifically with Matthew Judon and this young kid who's specifically becoming a new gem that they found, Josh Uche. He's playing phenomenal defensive edge football, incredible pass rushing technique. I mean, the guy got 3 sacks yesterday, and this isn't a flash in the pan. Like, we've seen him improve week after week. Like, he's a name that I've always seen, like, come out in the stat line as far as how it's looking, because obviously with Judon, Mr. Red Sleeves himself, as everybody loves to call him, he's going to get all the attention, and he just needs a co-partner to go along with him. So it looks like Josh Uche will be that guy. Now, not to say that the team will have entirely a lot of playoff success because of the defense, but as far as defensively for this team, they still have the level, and they still have the ranking as far as that they deserve it, being a top defensive in this end the league. I mean, they caused DeAndre Hopkins to fumble and return it for a touchdown. I mean, it's just this defense tries its very hardest to win for this New England Patriots team, and it's all credit to Bill Belichick and the players that they have around him. And that's the thing. That's the thing we've always talked about, Jose. We never doubted his ability to coach the defensive end. I mean, the man made his bones with Lawrence Taylor and stopping that 1990s Bill offense for Super Bowls. Point being is that for this year, for this New England Patriots team, defense is definitely what we expect to see off of them. And I mean, their corners, and I can talk about the rookie Marcus Jones, who made the interception for the New England Patriots. Seems like another talented young corner. It seems like, Jose, they keep like rotating in young corners, and they seem to be players. I mean, we got I can't think of the player's name. J.C. Jackson for the Chargers. He was the top young guy a couple years back. Now we got Jonathan Jones and we got Marcus Jones. You still have Devin McCourty on the back end being a leader on there. So it's very impressive, very, very impressive for the New England Patriots defense, and they always find a way to take away what you do well. Specifically for this Cardinals team, which was trying to like make flashy plays with DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, he made some catches, but they definitely contained him to the point where they couldn't do it. Now, we'll get into the Kyler Murray injury a little bit later on, but we'll talk about like the game as an entirety. They definitely took away new Colt McCoy's weaknesses, which was holding onto the ball longer and like force him to make an individual play and not leaving his first option open. So the people who don't, so the way it works is that when they played the Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, their success was predicated on Colt McCoy getting rid of the ball early, making the quick passing game a way to beat them and a way to neutralize that Aaron Donald pass rush. For this New England Patriots defense, they definitely forced them to try to make big plays on him. Played man coverage throughout the whole night and made it very, very difficult for his receivers to get open quickly, and made it hard for Colt McCoy to get rid of the ball to his first option, which ultimately led to them sacking him 6 times throughout the game. I mean, incredible performance, but we all know the Cardinals' offensive line isn't anything to write home about. But switching topics over for the Cardinals' defensive side, I mean, it's my problem that I've had all year with this team, Jose. I mean, some talent that looks like it could be okay, but doesn't even really live up to the potential that it could be. I will never say anything bad about Budda Baker, the captain of that team. He's always playing 110%. But what did we talk about, Jose, before the season started with this Cardinals defense? What did I say the weakness was going to be? At linebacker. And it hasn't proven me wrong yet again. Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, I mean, these guys they're not playing to the potential they were drafted. Both first rounders. And as you and I both know, those Cardinals, they love their linebackers in the first round.
They do.
They don't choose anything else, but they love those guys going on there. So Isaiah Simmons did get an interception, but like you said, it was a dumb play by Mac Jones. It's not like it was a coverage interception. It was just a lucky interception because he just tossed it up there, and Simmons just happened to be on there around the football. Point being is that this Cardinals defense played, I guess, okay, but they could not stop the run to save their life, and it just it doesn't leave me impressed. It doesn't leave me impressed. Like, as opposed to the Patriots defense, I'm impressed with what they're finding week after week. Like, they seem to find new ways to play better. This Cardinals defense stays the same, and Vance Joseph he hasn't shown much to me. But before I get to franchise-changing moves and what I think is going to happen for the Cardinals, I mean, for this game, Patriots defense show why they're superior defense, top 10. Cardinals defense show why they've lost 9 games. Simple as that.
That's really what it came down to, of course, Ricardo. I mean, the more that I think about it, the more that I see that somebody like Colt McCoy on the offensive side, right? The second quarter, as soon as he was put in there, it seemed like he was trying to make some really big plays, right? Some long shots down the field, right? And it's like you were saying, they were trying to make all these flashy plays and do what they're known to do with DeAndre Hopkins. But DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the number one target. Let's take you out, right? And see how you do with that. Okay, so another big moment from this game was when DeAndre Hopkins fumbled that reception, right? And then that resulted in a defensive touchdown for New England, right? It was funny because shortly before that, you expected a defensive touchdown. That's funny. It's like that's right. Yeah, you expected a defensive touchdown, and that's exactly what happened. Granted, I didn't expect it to be from DeAndre Hopkins, right? Because he himself is not known for fumbling the ball away or even dropping it for that matter, right? He's a lot like he resembles Larry Fitzgerald in that sense, right? Where he's able to catch the ball and he's able to hold on to it as long as possible. But there's really not a whole lot to really comment on for this game, simply because the Patriots and the Cardinals are just very, very above and below mediocre teams, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So really, what I can't say any more about my team, and I can't say any more about the Arizona Cardinals. They're just they just kind of are who they are. They've established a pattern in my mind, right? The past few weeks they've played this exact same way. So there were really no surprises to me in this game, Ricardo. What would you say?
No surprises at all on the field. I mean, we both knew what we expected when we saw this game was coming up. I mean, I'm surprised, Jose, they didn't just flex out of this game and made another game, a Monday night game. But they just kept with it because I guess it was the Patriots again. So on the field, not a lot to be surprised about. Like, we both know what it is. Like, it's past Thanksgiving. We both know what these teams are looking like. And Patriots Mac Jones can say what he wants, by the way. This is one thing I want to bring up about, like, how he had a heart-to-heart with Matt Patricia, and, like, they kind of come to, like, consensus as far as what's going on, and, like, he just has to do better. I disagree. I mean, you know where I stand on it as far as, like, the offensive play calling. People who don't know, like, we've gone over in episodes before. I mean, it's a ridiculous tactic that they're doing to their young second-year quarterback, and they're really sending him back for success. But if you don't mind, Jose, I want to talk about some things that happen off the field that will definitely change the influence of this franchise. If you don't mind me taking the lead on it.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So, let's start with the obvious first thing that happened. And once again, we don't wish injury on anybody. Like, I hate that this happened. Like, if I wanted Kyler Murray not to be an Arizona Cardinals quarterback, I did not want it to be this way. It's very, very, very bad injury and a big disaster for Kyler Murray. So I see two ways for this situation to move forward, Jose, and most likely two. He either this injury kind of humbles him in a sense, and he becomes a different person moving forward after rehabbing, after getting 100% healthy. and he becomes a different person and decides to like do what it takes to win and knows that like it takes a lot more than just talent and like just being on the field to win games. So either it changes him and makes him a different person as far as what's going, or I honestly see him trying maybe calling it quits after this. Because here's why. Like I'm not saying like this was gonna happen, but this is what I'm not saying it's definitely gonna happen, but I can see this most likely happening. The guy was iffy if he wanted to play baseball or football before college. I mean, and this was before, and this was like, keep in mind, this guy has never failed in sports whatsoever. He was undefeated as a 4-year starter in high school. He went to Oklahoma. He won the Heisman. They didn't win the championship, but he was very, very successful, top of his field. Like, rarely had to struggle to get anywhere. It's a losing season. It's clear that him and the head coach cannot lie for whatever reason, and it's not surprising because nobody thinks the head coach should be in that position that he's in right now. And he just got a catastrophic injury for the first time in his life. Like he's never had a season-ending injury like this and something that's happened this way. So I can honestly see him going this way like, look, I got paid. I'll just do my best to rehab, and maybe I can get I can get back to baseball and do what I want to do, or I'm happy doing gaming. Like he's a very good gamer. I can see him just focusing on being a pro gamer as well as I can see it. So I either see this changing him and making him a more like same person, like better person as far as like preparing off the field, leading his teammates, and like moving forward as far as studying and doing what it takes to win the game. Or I see him leaving the game. I don't see him being the same Kyler Murray once he gets the surgery and once he rehabs. And let's be honest, Jose, he's going to be out for the whole year. This injury happens in December. Nobody's Adrian Peterson, where he just gets a surgery and comes back in 6 months in time for the season to play for the whole season and becomes MVP. That just doesn't happen. They got like no one has genetics like that. So he's going to be out for the whole year next year. I don't care what anybody says. He's not coming back on Halloween or anything like that. Like, why risk it? Bare minimum, if they're lucky, last week of the season for next year. So he's out for the whole season, I would say. Like, he's not coming back in time to influence that whole season. So that's how I see it going. Either it changes him as a person and he's more motivated and dedicated to improving his craft to move forward and go that direction, or I can see him leaving the game. Because he just got paid, like he got this contract, like his guaranteed money is all there. Like he could walk away if he wanted to and either, like I said, try baseball or become video games. Now, let's go to the breaking news that you just mentioned as far as the general manager, who, like you said, he's taking a leave of absence for personal health reasons. Now, that could be the case. He could realistically be having health problems that we know nothing about. I mean, he could be struggling with some issues that we don't know about, and that he just needs this break, and he'll be back in action, like to move forward as a GM for the Cardinals. But I just find the timing of it to be a little suspicious, Jose. I mean, don't you think? Like, his star quarterback just gets his ACL torn. His head coach has shown nothing of improvement or nothing that he's done anything else to improve this team other than DeAndre and Kyler. And that game was very much, let's ride DeAndre. Hopefully, as a monster game, we'll win this way. Let's not try to do like anything else as far as changing. So this goes back to what I've talked about this team and the three heads of the snake and the changes that I think should be made. I told you I see a 5-year plan, and I saw the third year that the implementation of that plan as far as like changes needing to be made. I can honestly say Kingsbury is going to be done soon here. And I don't see this team winning out, like as far as ending the season on a positive note. I mean, the playoffs are like, obviously those are done, but ending the season on a positive winning string to have his GM or the owner have faith in his future. Keim being out for health reasons, it makes me feel like he knows if it is health reasons, like that's valid. But if he just needs the leave of absence for a leave of absence, he knows he's close to the end, because this was his last shot as far as creating a contending team for the owner. Because you remember, Jose, they drafted Josh Rosen the year before Kyler Murray.
Yes,
they just hired a new head coach. They had a new team assembled that they were going to build step by step and make it better. And a year later, he decided to scrap all that. We're going to move forward with these talented people. Like, they're going to lead us to the promised land. And you and I have both seen enough. But it's just a matter of how much has the owner seen enough to be like, this has been a giant mistake, and I'm going to clear house. You know? So my point being is that there's going to be huge changes being made at the executive position and definitely at the coaching position, because Kingsbury's not going to be able to coach his way out of this. Like, his meal ticket has been Kyler. The whole reason that he was hired is because he could make an offense that serves Kyler. And Kyler's gone. Kyler's gone, and like, yes, it's unfair, and yes, it was catastrophic, but Jose, we see head coaches still leave still make contending teams. That year, Mike Tomlin, the year that Ben Roethlisberger was retired, that year after, when they were trying to figure out what to do at the quarterback position, they were still at a 500 record. They still won games. They still won games because of the coaching and because you see like them trying to make the best of what they have do, like best of what they have in the talent on the roster. And this is a talented roster. This team should at least be 500 with a competent coach. Not necessarily a good coach. So all this going down to the Cardinals, I'm saying, is that this game was a huge turning point off the field. At the quarterback spot, at the executive position for the GM, and at the head coaching position. I did not expect this to come as quick as it did. You know, like my predictions as far as how I thought this was going to happen. I did not think that this Patriots game was going to be the beginning of the end and the beginning of the unraveling. Now, I could be 100% wrong, but I'm just saying it's very possible that this is a fork in the path for this team, and we'll see what happens. That's what the NFL is the unexpected happens. But those are my thoughts as far as what happened off the field.
Very well said. All of that was very well said. And I believe that is a fantastic segue into a game that was a little more exciting on the field. Right? Now, Before we move on, Ricardo, thanks a lot for that. Appreciate it. And for everybody that's listening at home, I hope that did that not necessarily open your eyes, but just kind of opened your mind up to other things that could be happening within the Arizona Cardinals organization if you are a Cardinals fan. So without further ado, fantastic, well said, Ricardo. Let's move on to the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. Do not go away.
Let's do it.
The New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills are both in the AFC East. Okay, this was a divisional game at New York, right? The New York Jets, Ricardo, 20-12 was the final score. The Bills took it. The New York Jets held them to this score, and they held them very well. New York Jets defense held down elite talent. Not to mention in a divisional game. So the fact that the New York Jets, rewind with me, Ricardo, 2 years ago, do you think the New York Jets would do anything up against this Buffalo Bills team if they had the same
I see a 3-touchdown blowout a couple of years ago if I see them against this Bills team. Easily a 3-touchdown blowout. I mean, this team was completely reversed, complete 180 to where they are now. Keep going, Jose.
Ricardo, they held Josh Allen to 16 of 27 passes, 147 yards. Is that a normal game for Josh Allen? I don't think so.
No.
No, it is not. A single passing touchdown, 10 carries for 47 yards. He was the rushing leader, by the way. They forced him to rush for 47 yards, nearly half a football field, and a single touchdown. The top receiver was Dawson Knox with 4 receptions and 41 yards and a single touchdown. And right underneath him was Stephon Diggs for 3 receptions and 37 yards. So not only was the pass rush on point, it seems like the run stop was fantastic as well because Devin Singletary was held for 8 carries and 39 yards. 39 yards. One of their saving grace as far as the rush game goes, right? And of course, and not to mention, let's talk about this guy for just a moment, Ricardo. We have Keenan Williams on the New York Jets side. This guy is in the top 10 for sacks, right? I believe he's number 7, right? With this game, he got 2 sacks in this game, which gave him 11 for the entire season. You want to know who the number 1 sack artist is in this league?
I know. Nick Bosa with 14.
It is not anymore. It's Matt Judon now.
Oh.
Matt Judon, 13.5. But the fact that Keenan Williams is, the fact that Keenan Williams is 2.5 sacks away, my man.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have to say, Ricardo? It was sack city for this game, right? 4 sacks total for the Bills. The Bills got 4 sacks, and the Jets got 3. All right? So it seems like both of these defenses were just having a hell of a game. So going from the Pats and the Cardinals to the Bills and the Jets, it seems as though both of these teams were defensive slugfests, Ricardo. And it was
hard hitting.
Exactly.
Hard hitting.
Exactly. And it was a hell of a game to watch. Right? The fact that Josh Allen and his offense was held down to these kinds of yards. Now let's give us a little more insight into this defensive slugfest. Ricardo, I'm going to hand it off to you. What do you think and what did you see?
No, absolutely, Jose. They definitely did a beautiful job as far as for the New York Jets. They definitely mixed a lot of defenses for the Buffalo Bills. They played some man coverage. They played some combo coverage, where combo zone and man. But I mean, going into that secondary had an outstanding game, Jose. Outstanding against the Bills' top flight receivers and their weapons right here. Going back to the stats that you mentioned, where we didn't see Gabe Davis the whole game. So they held this Bills offense. So Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox, and some other guys, Devin Singletary, to 16 receptions. The 2 big weapons for the Buffalo Bills, Jose, did not get more than 3 catches all game.
Yep.
All game. And they usually get 3 catches in a quarter. It's hard-hitting football, and it goes back to that game last week against the Minnesota Vikings where Jordan Whitehead once again leading the charge, man, like hard-hitting against the Bills defenders, not being scared. Quentin Williams taking down the big Josh Allen for sacks, which is not an easy thing to do entirely by yourself. And Sauce Gardner, the times that he was on Stephon Diggs, man, he was not afraid to be physical. He was not afraid to be there on an island by himself, man coverage. He wasn't on him the whole game. I'll make note of that because people are going to be like, well, he wasn't on him the whole game. No, he wasn't. There was times where other corners were there, but it was a zone coverage against Stephon Diggs where it was 2-on-1. And there was safety help over the top, and that's fine because that's the defense that Robert Saleh plays. Two deep safeties in the back, or at least 1 deep safety, and hard-hitting nose tackling football. Jose, this New York Jets defense is reminding me of this 49ers defense.
Yep.
That's how outstanding football they're playing. I mean, it's just locked down top to bottom, and like you said, elite talent. The Buffalo Bills are the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's just elite talent that they're going up against, and the fact, Jose, I don't think people appreciate the fact that they can run a bunch of different defenses at teams and still be effective and great at shutting teams down. It doesn't get talked about enough because, Jose, there are some defenses that are strictly a cover 3 defense team. Pretty much what that means to the people who don't know, cover 3 means it means 3 guys always goes deep, whether it's the 2 corners on the side and the 1 safety in the middle. Always go deep. You always have 3 guys going deep, whether it's 1 safety on the other side or a safety on another. You always have 3 guys go deep. Cover 2 defense is in the name. 2 guys go deep. Man coverage. Cover 2 man goes over there. Cover 2 Tampa goes two deep safeties, and then you got a middle linebacker going deep over the middle as well. My point being, because I'm not trying to ramble here and trying to sound smarter than people who don't know what defenses is. Point is that it's very, very complex, and it takes a lot of scheming and strategy and player talent to know that, okay, we can run this type of defense on this play with these players because they won't let us down. And it takes a lot of talent for players to be able to play multiple schemes. on the defensive side. I mean, it's unbelievable. Quincy Williams in the middle over there, C.J. Mosley, the leader of the middle of that defense, and Quinnen Williams, the big muscle-bound tank on that side. It is ridiculous defense that they play. And they did have Solomon Thomas, a former 49er, guy 6'6", 300 pounds, big guy over the middle. Didn't have a big game over stats, but when you have a big body that can move, it can press, it makes life a lot more difficult for the offensive players because you got this big person that you cannot move out of the way. Quan Alexander's safety position, outstanding. I already mentioned Jordan Whitehead. I mean, I love him, dude. He's the hard-hitting leader of this team. Sauce Gardner. LaMarcus Joyner, another veteran in the secondary, plays outstanding. Point being is that this New York Jets defense is the reason that this team has the potential to make the playoffs. I love I love how they run the football effectively, and they got some good weapons. But as far as reality is that this team on the defensive side is the reason this New York Jets team is where it's at. Playing hard-hitting football, keeping the game close, and keeping it close for their offensive side. And it's fun to watch. If anybody who's played football at any level on the defensive side, watch this team play defense, and you love it. They always converge on the football. They play their schemes effectively, and when they blitz hard and they blitz unafraid. And I cannot stress, Jose, they're impressive tackling, man.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of teams the guys that miss tackles, that don't wrap up, that just hit with the shoulder and just go over there. This team's always form-hitting tackle. Impressive. Unbelievable play on the defensive side. And as far as for the Bills, they hit the Jets hard as well. They took Mike White out of the game because when they blitzed, they did tremendous form tackling, hitting him right in the middle, right in the gut, and forcing him to come out a couple of plays and made Mike White play differently throughout the game. Matt Milano, defender that came back a couple weeks ago, he's showing to be the leader of that Bills defense as well. Now, the Bills defense is definitely more of a cover 3 zone defense. They play a lot of zone coverage, but they play a lot of hard-hitting tackling as well. Tre'Davious White, their top cornerback on the defensive side, is looking more and more like himself week by week by week. And Greg Rousseau, I don't know what Von Miller taught him, man, on their starting defensive end, Greg Rousseau, number 55. He knows how to pass rush now, man. He knows how to do some stuff. Shaq Lawson's always been an okay guy, but he's coming around on the right time, and it's fun to watch, dude. Like you said, the Cardinals and the Patriots game, it was very much a defensive game, but it was because the offenses were so damn terrible. Let's just be honest.
Let's be completely frank here. Yeah.
And these two Jets offenses, these two offenses for this game, you have one elite and one that's good. Not necessarily elite, but they're good as well. And elite defense in play, man. I could go on and on, but I would just ramble on for this whole segment. But it was just hard-hitting, incredible strategy, and great tackling all throughout the game.
Absolutely, and with that, we should compare the offensive stats for the Jets to the Buffalo Bills. Of course, just based off of these stats alone, it seems as though the Jets defense was the one that just hit the hardest, right? You do have Zonovan Knight, who was the top receiving leader, right? I do like watching him, 17 carries for 71 yards and a single touchdown. But man, do I love me some Garrett Wilson, man. He's looking good. He's looking really, really good.
Week after week, man.
Yeah, man, it's consistently. And I believe it was last week as well. He got about 7 or 8 targets. This week he got 7. Got 7 targets, received 6 of them for a whole 78 yards, right? The kid's all over the place. He is all over the place on the field in the best way possible, right? He's able to shake off corners whenever it's needed. Like you said, Tre'Davious White is the corner for the Buffalo Bills. Oh, man, like any one of those guys, Garrett Wilson is not afraid to step up on them. So it reminds me a lot of another team that we're really going to start diving deep into in our next segment, the Detroit Lions. But the New York Jets, man, they're looking phenomenal. The defense is looking absolutely phenomenal. So now we need to start building the offense on their end.
I'm jealous of this franchise right now, man, as far as compared to mine, because everybody's on the exact same page. They're trying to move forward. They're close. They're building bit by bit. But dude, this franchise is ahead of schedule as far as from the draft picks and the production on field,
Yep.
specifically on the defensive side. We didn't see this happening for like, okay, maybe give them 2 years, see how they're doing. No, they're playing great now. They're playing great right now, and they're trying their best to move forward and to win some games. And they're going to make the playoffs. I do believe in dates this team has the best chance to make that wild card spot. Now, will they win a wild card game? That's a different story, but they're tough out.
At this point, it's similar to a situation that the Cincinnati Bengals were in last year. It's like, no matter what happens, even if you lose the Super Bowl, that's history. That's history right there. So if the Jets make a wild card run this season and anything beyond, if they at the very least make a wild card run, that's it. That's progress. Right? That is progress.
Nobody expected this team to be where they're at.
Exactly. Especially, like you said, this early on. Right? So they did not waste a single second, and it is very exciting to watch the New York Jets continue to dominate week in and week out on the defensive side of the ball, especially. Ricardo, I love seeing Quinnen Williams. I did mispronounce his name earlier in the segment, so I want to correct myself here. Quinnen Williams, right? If I am saying that correctly. I just love seeing his celebration every single time he sacks a quarterback. He's climbing up. Mm-hmm. He's climbing up, right? I love seeing it, man. I mean, the New York Jets have been this team. I shouldn't be getting this excited about really either one of these teams because they're in my division, but quite honestly, they're just better.
You love good football, man. You can't help it.
That's what I mean. Oh my goodness. It's like I like watching the Jets, and I love watching the Detroit Lions. We're going to be getting into that segment here shortly, but to close it off on my end, Ricardo, the Jets are a force to be reckoned with, and I am so excited to continue to see how they progress throughout this season and how they continue to progress the next few years, because there's really no stopping them now. They're soaring at this point. They are taking off. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if you have anything more to add, Ricardo.
No, nothing more to add, but tough win by the Buffalo Bills. Very ugly game, but you're going to have ugly games, but the Bills are going to have to start to show again who they were at the beginning of the year. Not necessarily blowing teams out, but showing like effective, consistent play to show that they're not just like walking into the playoffs. Because right now they're kind of walking. They were running early on in the season. They kind of stumbled a bit. Now they're walking. They're going to have to run into the playoffs because these teams are getting better week, and the AFC is going to be tough games. So I'm good with that, Jose. Let's move on to the Vikings and the Lions.
Let's go ahead. The Detroit Lions. Ricardo, like I said in the last segment, I love watching this team. I love watching this team. Oh my gosh. It's like if any other team in the NFL had even half the grit that the Detroit Lions have, I mean, who's to stop any one of those teams, right? That's not saying that neither one of the teams in the NFL do have that kind of grit, but the Detroit Lions is just such exciting football every single time they take the field, right? As opposed to the last couple of games that we just talked about, this was a shootout. Mm-hmm. This game was a shootout. It was the final score was 34-23. The Lions did take the dub, right? Jared Goff went off, my friend. Now, Jared Goff is not the best quarterback, but this Vikings defense, Ricardo, they made him look like prime Aaron Rodgers. Like, holy crap. Yeah. 27 of 39, 330 yards, and 3 touchdown passes. 3 touchdown passes, right? And not to mention, they got 134 rushing yards. Team rushing yards.
Yep. And 0 picks.
0 picks.
By Jared Goff.
0 picks.
Which is very rare. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 0 picks by Jared Goff. Now, does that mean that Jared Goff is coming into his own? No. He's been in the league for a very long time, and I think what we see is what we get at this point, right? So it's just further testament to the Minnesota Vikings defense, the Minnesota Vikings shortcomings, and that is their defense. All right.
Yep.
On top of that, too, DJ Chark had seven 7 targets for 6 receptions, 94 yards, and a single touchdown. And we also had Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 of 9 with 68 yards. And C.J. Moore was the top rusher with a single carry for 42 yards. 1 carry for 42 yards.
And we got Jameson Williams too, the rookie who finally made his first game, his game debut in the NFL. 1 catch, but it was for 41 yards and a touchdown.
That's right.
Incredible, great to watch, man.
That's right. Yeah, Jameson Williams, his first NFL reception caused by blown coverage, Ricardo. Who could have guessed? Caused by blown coverage. Miscommunication between one defender and Patrick Peterson, if I remember correctly. So,
yep.
I mean, it's just, oh my goodness, it was. As soon as I saw that, I said, yeah, that sounds like the Vikings. But flipping it over to the offensive side of the ball, Kirk Cousins had quite a game too, 31 of 41, 425 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Right? Mm-hmm. This team, this offense especially, would not have the success that it does without Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. The dynamic duo that is that receiver combo. Right? Justin Jefferson is the man. He is the man. If he is not the best receiver in the NFL right now, he will soon be exactly that. If he's going to, for me, he is in the running for offensive player of the year, without question. If not, already has it. So Justin Jefferson finished the game with 11 receptions for 223 yards. No contest as to who the number 1 receiver in this game was. Right below, not exactly below that, but Adam Thielen had 7 receptions for 65 yards and a single touchdown. KJ Osborne also shared a touchdown as well. And altogether, in comparison to the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings had 22 team rushing yards. So we can see who was the more balanced in the game here, Ricardo, right? not too balanced, because Goff also had 330 yards passing, but still 134 rushing yards. Now, if they played against a top tier defense, that number would have significantly reduced itself. All right. On top of that, Kirk Cousins was also constantly under pressure throughout this game. He was the one. And so I'm fairly surprised, honestly, that I didn't throw an interception. And the Vikings defense just the entire game just had trouble tackling. Right? It took like 3 guys to take one take one running back down or take a single receiver down, more often than not. Right? And they also they also would leave receivers at least 5 yards open, consistently. So, Ricardo, let me ask you this. How exactly is the Minnesota Vikings improvement supposed to be had? Right? Like, what exactly needs to happen for them to improve on the defensive side?
A lot, Jose. A lot. to give you the short answer, a lot has to change as far as how they're doing. But it just goes down to grit and effort, man. I mean, missed tackles goes down to effort, because they have names on the defense, man. I could go on and on. I mean, they got Eric Kendricks, who's been their guy for years now. Jordan Hicks, who's an established linebacker, specifically a good cover linebacker, and backers. I mean, they have known players. They have a good, decent amount of players. It comes down to strategy and effort, Jose. Because, it's like you said, every other play, it looked like there was a Lions player wide open, 5 yards open. That was a blown coverage that got touchdowns because you go deep. Jared Goff should not be as efficient as he is for 330 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 picks. So my point being is that a lot has to change. And that's not a simple answer, but a lot has to change. And I don't know if it's the defensive coordinator or if it's specifically the effort that the players have, because Jose, I don't know if you agree with me, but it kind of seems like every game I watch the Vikings play, it's like everybody else waits for someone else to make the play.
Yeah.
Like they see what's going on, but they just, right?
Exactly. Yes. It's like if one defender is nowhere near or one defender is in where the running back is supposed to be tackled. When that one guy drops down, it's like everybody else says, "Oh well, I guess I'll run in there and take care of it." Yeah, it's like a wine spill, right? It's like everybody's just kind of sitting around it and seeing if somebody will clean it up.
And that's the problem, Jose, when you have bad tendencies early on, specifically for the Vikings. You remember how they were always down big and they made comebacks to win those games?
Yeah.
Well, what happens when you build up those tendencies is like when you make little mistakes consistently, they're like, oh, it's fine. We'll overcome. I mean, we're a good team. We're going to make it. And this is why you and me did not like this Vikings team that everybody else was so excited about. Like, oh my God. They've only lost one game. They beat the Buffalo Bills. Oh my God, they got 10 wins for the season. Like this team has a chance to make it all the way. Like they have a chance. They have Justin Jefferson on offense. This offense is great. Like what's the problem? Nothing can stop them, except for the defense and the quarterback. Jose, this defense, to quote up short, this defense is awful, god awful. Like they just can't stop a nosebleed to save their life. Stop a cold. It's ridiculous. Now, Kirk Cousins threw for 425 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did it seem to have an effect on the game at all?
Not really.
Those passing yards.
No.
It just felt like they were there because Justin Jefferson's an alien who's playing out of his mind this year. So like it's very much a thing that when your stats come and how they're approaching.
Also, let's take into account yards after the catch, right? Because
exactly.
Those are also included in the quarterback's total yard count at the end of the game. So, how many of those yards were yards after the catch is my next question. Of course, we didn't pull that up, but that's a big question.
What's the score was, and that I do have pulled up. What the score was when those stats came by. So, were you up? Were you behind? This is the cowboy effect that Dak Prescott perplexed a lot of people. He pulls up all these amazing stats. What's going on? Well, it's because they're down by 2 touchdowns and they got to throw it. I mean, you don't have time to try to run the ball and be consistent. You got to move down the field now. You got to move down the field and try to score touchdowns here. So, Jose, the Vikings at one point were down 21-7. And then it was 21-13. And then Detroit was up 28-13. My point being is that those yards didn't really affect the game specifically because they didn't affect the outcome. They didn't affect the score. The ending of the score was 34-23 because the Vikings were able to just seal it out, like leave no doubt as far as what was happening after the Vikings started to score another touchdown. They scored another touchdown and the Vikings ended up scoring two more touchdowns. So my whole thing is that it's showing what we thought about this Vikings team is that they're not that. They're not what the record indicates. They're not what people think that they are. They're not what, and I love Vikings fans. I do, man. They're very loyal, but this is not the year. It's not the quarterback, and it's definitely not the defense. And this team is showing me time and time again, specifically when they come against a tough coach team, a tough ground-nosed team that forces you to play 60 minutes of football. They're gonna fall, dude, and they're gonna make the playoffs, and they're gonna be a top 3 seed, to say the least, and they're going to be home after the first round. They are not going to win a playoff game. I don't see them winning a playoff game because you and I both know when we see football, Jose, it comes down to tough games, close contested games, and it comes down to making excellent plays, and every point matters. When you have a defense that just lets people walk into the end zone or just let people guys get easy yards, you're not going to go far. You're not going to go far. To give you an example, the Tom Brady led a team to the Super Bowl 2011. That was the worst ranked defense, one of the worst defenses to play a Super Bowl of all time. They still lost that game because it was a hard coached team in those New York Giants. And that comes to my point specifically. Let's say best case scenario, they make the Super Bowl. They're not going to win it. I mean, Tom Brady couldn't do it. Aaron Rodgers shows you time and again with a weak defense. You can't win with a weak defense.
No matter how many points you put up on the board.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if your defense scores another touchdown when you're on the bench. Let them score another touchdown when they're gone. Because there's no such thing as the perfect offense that scores every single time. Even if you kick a field goal, it doesn't matter if your defense lets them score immediately. Like, there's going to be times where you're going to struggle and you're going to have to punt the ball and you're going to make mistakes. You're just going to rely on your team to help you out. And it doesn't look like this team's going to have what it takes. But the flip side, man, the flip side about this Detroit Lions team, my goodness, dude, I'm rooting for them so badly. I want them to succeed so badly. I want them to be a playoff team, and I want them to do well because they're doing everything the right way.
Yep.
Now, Jared Goff is not the answer at quarterback long term. You and I both know that. But I'll say this. He's showing that this Lions team has a lot of talent when he throws the ball to them. You just went over the numbers with the receivers, but he's showing that they have a lot of good talent, a lot of young talent. Point being is that it just takes the right guy to propel them to that next level, to try to be a playoff contender. Now, they're 6-7, so we got to come down a little bit. They're not exactly going to make the playoffs, but if they make it to a 500 record, Jose, that's an excellent step in the next direction. I mean, they just won a couple games last season. So if they make it to the 500 level where they split even, well, you can't be 500 with 17 games. You're either one below or one down. But I'm going to count that as the 500 level because it's not an even amount of games.
Yeah.
But it's impressive. It's impressive, and I love this coaching staff, and I love Dan Campbell, and I want them to succeed so badly. And this just shows the detriment of the Vikings, but it also shows the grittiness of the Lions to show, hey, we're not something to be stepped over anymore. This isn't the same old Lions. Like, we can win games. You let us stay close enough in games, and we're gonna prove you wrong. We're gonna prove you wrong, and we're gonna do well. And that's as much I have to say to that, is that this Vikings team is gonna show who they are eventually. They're gonna disappoint everybody, and this Lions franchise is in the right direction.
It is. So it seems like the final score really reflected where these teams are going to be going. Okay, yeah, I was very surprised to see the Vikings at 10-3, and I said, wow. I mean, what's really causing? I mean, what really is the juice here, right? What's Michael Seaver's stuff, so to speak? All right, so as soon as I started watching game after game, I said, oh, okay, well, I mean, Kirk Cousins still Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are just putting points up on the board. Not to mention KJ Osborne is really starting to come into his own as well. Just that entire offense, with the exception of Kirk Cousins, is top tier. They're fantastic. They're able to put points up no matter what happens on the defensive side of the ball. So unfortunately, for the Minnesota Vikings, I do concur with you, Ricardo. I mean, if anything, they'll win the first playoff game by this much, but they will not make it.
You're optimistic.
Yeah. I try to be. But anyway, well, whoever does make it to the wild card round in the NFC, whoever does make it to the wild card round in the NFC, if they do lose, if that's a big if they do lose to the Minnesota Vikings, it will literally be by inches, or they just got lucky, a penalty flag thrown, right, at the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I am optimistic. I guess you could say optimistic, but at the same time, it's like, well, shit happens. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that very well could be the case. You know, and the epitome of that statement statement that I just uttered was this game: the Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams. So please,
oh my God.
so do not go away for that. A decent game, because last week we had recorded our podcast episode, and then right after that, I went out myself and I just started having a couple drinks at a bar that I like going to, and I watched the football game, right? And it just so happened to be prime time, Raiders and the Rams. And I thought the Raiders were just having a ball of a game. I said, holy crap, they're just going off. But against these Los Angeles Rams, it's like, well, apparently not, because I watched the highlights the day after, and my goodness, dude, Derek Carr, 11 of 20, 137 yards and 2 picks, not a single touchdown pass. Josh Jacobs was the man of the hour, really. The man of this game. 27 carries for 99 yards and a single touchdown. But even then, 27 carries and only not even 100 yards? Oh, my goodness. Don't even get me started on Devontae Adams. Three receptions for 71 yards. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Except he was targeted 7 times. He was targeted 7 times. He only caught 3 of those passes. Ricardo, what was it that you were saying when Devontae Adams was with the Green Bay Packers? What was it that you were saying?
I was saying it looked pretty easy for him because the ball was always in the perfect spot for him, and it made him look great.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not saying that this is just going to be a regular occurrence, but the fact that Devontae Adams, the so-called greatest receiver of 2021, right, was just having a hell of a game, right? Like he was the greatest receiver of 2021, and all of a sudden he's targeted 7 times and only catches 3 of those passes, right, for 71 yards. Sure, okay, yeah, no, yeah, Justin Jefferson's below this guy. We'll say that much. The MVP for this Raiders offense was Daniel Carlson, their kicker. 3 of 3 field goals made, 1 of 1 extra point made for 10 total points. Ricardo, the final score for the Raiders was 16 points. And he scored 10 of those points.
And they scored 13 of them in the first half.
Exactly.
My goodness.
Exactly. Yeah, 1 touchdown from Josh Jacobs. That's it. And, okay, also Derek Carr threw his first interception in the end zone, by the way, which is cardinal sin, number 1 for a quarterback. Do not throw an interception in the end zone.
It was awful, too.
Oh, man, it was right to
no
it.
reason It was first down, dude. It wasn't even like it was a 4th down play. Like you're trying to make a play. It was awful. It was awful.
It was terrible. Then the Rams, the introduction of the great quarterback of our time, Ricardo, Baker Mayfield. Right? Everyone, oh my gosh. And I heard everybody at this bar that I was at, the Los Angeles Rams, as soon as Van Jefferson caught that touchdown pass, it's like everyone who was a Rams fan was like, yeah, Baker Mayfield. Nope. Don't even start with me. Baker Mayfield. Yeah, and then he's on the sideline, cheering, right? And I'm looking right at him, and I said, this is what he's saying right now. Yay, I still have a job. I still got a job, guys.
Seriously.
Oh, my gosh. 22 of 35, 230 yards and a single touchdown. Historical. Cam Akers, 12 carries for 42 yards and a single touchdown. And then of course, we have Van Jefferson with 2 receptions, 44 yards, and, that game-winning touchdown. All right. Aside from that, the top receiver for this game was Ben Skowronek. I hope I'm saying that right. Skowronek. There we go. I had never. I do want to say that I heard his name here and there, but anyway, 7 receptions for 89 yards. So not even 100 yards receiving, right? Not expecting a 100-yard game from every receiver that comes onto the field, but either way, Ricardo, Baker Mayfield is not a generational quarterback. And I don't know how many times you and I have to say this, but he is not a generational quarterback. Soon enough, he is going to show his true colors again with a 3rd team this time. He is not better than Matt Stafford. I will say that. What do you think?
Well, where to begin? I mean, if I were to describe this game in a few words, I would say Josh McDaniels keeps finding new ways to lose. I mean, first it's against a head coach who was a commentator on TV, and then decides, and his head coach is like new head coach for a football team. You lose to that guy. Then you lose to the guy who was in town for 2 days, around 2 days for this new team. You let him score a game-winning touchdown drive. And to the people who don't understand how defenses work, Jose, for the love of me, I do not know why teams do this. They don't play zone defense. They play prevent defense. They play prevent defense to where they keep everybody back. Don't let them score in the end zone, but you let them catch passes, and it just takes one big play. It takes one big play. It can be over the middle to get them in momentum and keep them going. Just play consistent defense. And I'm not saying play man. I'm going to get to that in a second. Don't play man in the final drive to win the game because you don't want to be too aggressive. I'll get to that in a second, but just play consistent defense. If you're a zone defense team, so be it. Be zone defense, but keep help over the top to keep you safe. Now, I'm not saying stay 20 freaking yards back, like the typical 12 to 15 yards depth range, and make sure that you don't be so aggressive. And if you're going to be aggressive, make sure it's calculated and then you have a chance, and be strategically safe. The reason I'm bringing up man coverage, and I have no idea for the love of God why they did this. Jose, that touchdown pass to Van Jefferson, what defense were they playing? It's simple. I've been bringing it up for what defense do you think they were playing?
They were playing, it looked to be cover 2 to me. It looked to be man. It looked to be man, yeah.
It was man.
Yeah.
Single high safety though. So if you're a receiver, so what that means to people know, so like you have 2 safeties, right? They're playing man. If it's a typical cover 2 defense, both safeties go back into deep coverage in case for so they don't do a big play on them.
But they only have one high safety.
They only have one safety go deep. So what that means is that which direction that safety goes, that other side that he abandons is fair game.
Clean.
Yep. The other side happened to be that touchdown pass to Van Jefferson, and for whatever reason, there was a safety on that side, Jose. But they didn't have him play deep. They had him play intermediate for whatever reason. And okay, play intermediate. Have your corner go deep. No, have him play man coverage. Okay, you're gonna play man coverage. Press the guy. Push the guy when he's trying to come up the field. Don't let him get through quickly. No, we're not gonna let him do that. We're just gonna let him go easy release down the left sideline and make it an easy, not even attempt to make it difficult for them. That just blows my mind, Jose. How do you, as a defensive coordinator, if you're going to play single high safety man, be aggressive on the line of scrimmage. Affect the timing because you're like, okay, we're going to be able to sack him. Fine. But the defenders need time to sack him. You can't just let players go run deep down the field. It's just incredible. Sorry, it's just that final play of the game. I'm just like, they're giving Baker credit, which to his credit, he read the defense correctly and he threw a good pass.
But this is what happened. Right? Everything went perfectly for him. And this is a point that we continue to make, is that Baker Mayfield does not handle adversity well in game situations. Right? So in this case, everything was perfect. And it was all lined up for him. I mean, it would have been ridiculous for him not to take that opportunity to throw that touchdown pass. All right? On top of that, too, the Los Angeles Rams got lucky as hell because 2 penalty flags were thrown. Number 1, a pass interference on the defense, and number 2, unsportsmanlike conduct. If you remember, Ricardo. Yeah,
yep.
Literally one of the Raiders defenders goes up to, I think it was Baker. He was holding the football, and he just swatted it right out of his hand after the play was already over. All right, so he was pretty much just goading him on, right, trying to pick a fight.
Yeah.
All right, those 2 flags affected the game completely. And it costed them yards. I mean, they got lucky. The Rams got lucky.
And it's just he got sacked 4 times. Baker got sacked 4 times. It's not anything incredible that he did. He got sacked 4 times and he was able to make a final drive to score a touchdown. But like we said, the Raiders were up 13-3 in the first half. They only scored 3 points the second half. That's it. And not to even mention the fact, Jose, before they punted the ball away, that gave the Rams that final opportunity to try to score points on that final drive. Jose, correct me, who did the Rams sign at middle linebacker that you and I thought was an incredible addition to help out their defense?
Oh, future Hall of Famer from Seattle. That's right, Bobby Wagner.
Yeah. Bobby Wagner. It's a third and 1 play. You're going to try to run the ball off the field. Would you want to attempt to try to block him or try to get a guy in his way so Josh Jacobs probably has try to get as clean as possible to try to get that yard? You'd think so, right? You'd think you would try to stop a future Hall of Famer to get in a clean shot at your running back to make a one-on-one tackle. I mean, it's not like the guy has made hundreds of tackles for 10 years now. Like hundreds of per season made multiple tackles. No.
One would
Let's
think.
just let him go free. It's not a problem.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this game.
They have the worst part about it, Jose. The Raiders are one of the few teams that has a fullback listed on the roster. I mean, if you have a fullback, use him for that specific reason. You're going to run right up the gut, right to the teeth of the defense, have a blocker lead the way. Jesus. I mean, it's simple stuff that it's just like, who does this? Who thinks of ways to, who does this? Like, it's simple stuff. You're like, okay, this is my best plan. We'll do this. I'm going to do that. Like, no. They won't expect it. Let's just run it with nobody in front of Jacobs. He'll make a play. You kidding me? Jeez. And he was at 99 yards. Had they had someone to block for him, he would have gotten 100 yards and they win the game. They win the game and they get that first down and they have a chance to run some clock. It's just it boggles my mind how these Raiders have lost these games these years. And to your credit, Jose, you picked them to be third place. And they are at third place and they have talent. That's the worst part about it. They have talent on this team. This team was predicted by most to be a wild cards team at least. To try to make the wild card run, but they find ways to lose games. And Jose, the only reason they haven't fired their head coach is because they can't afford it. Because they're still paying off John Gruden from that contract, and if they fire McDaniels, they have to pay him off as well, and they can't afford to hire a next head coach. So it's just because the owner can't afford it, and that's sad state of affairs for that franchise, and it's just really, really a bad way to lose a game. I was rambling on here for a bit, but that's my take on what happened on this game. And I agree with you. Baker's not the guy. He's not going to be a guy. He's just he's an average quarterback. You give an average quarterback one-on-one coverage and make it easy for him, he'll make you pay. I don't care who it is. It could be Colt McCoy for all I care. Not Baker. It's you give him easy shots, he'll take it.
Yeah, this game was definitely one to view. If you haven't seen the highlights for this game, anybody that's listening, you absolutely have to, because it's just it blows me away. It truly does. So as far as the Raiders go, Ricardo, you pegged them to be third place. I pegged them to be fourth. I thought that Denver was going to be the team.
Oh,
yeah. No, I thought
that's my bad.
I thought that no, that's all right. I thought Denver was going to be the one above them, and if it seems as though they are the better team, and I say that with strong emphasis on the inflection, right? So better team, really? So if we were to compare the two of them, the Broncos have a stronger defense, but either way, the Raiders and the Rams, their seasons are over, right? Unfortunately, with the Rams, unfortunately, as far as the Rams go, the Super Bowl hangover, really. They won the Super Bowl last year, and this year they're really, really affected by it, unfortunately. And Baker Mayfield just somehow continues to find himself ways to get back into the spotlight. And my goodness, please just hide away for our sake as football fans. Okay. Now, Ricardo, this is going to be our second to last game. The one that we're about to talk about is a much more exciting one, and oh man, it is all about Cincinnati. Do not go away for that. The Ohio Showdown, Cleveland versus Cincinnati. Of course, the Bengals ran away with the win, 23-10, and Nick Chubb, as well as Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Njoku, those guys were held by that Cincinnati defense. Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in this game, Ricardo, was held to 14 carries and 34 yards. He averaged 2.4 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the strongest runners in this game, and he was only held to that. And he was held to just that. All right. The Cincinnati Bengals are phenomenal. They're really starting to come into their own. Not to mention Deshaun Watson was back for this game, and he looks rusty, right? Reasonably, because he's been out of the game. He's been out of the game for a while, right? However, he did still make some pretty good reads, okay? And he did still make some pretty good reads, and he made some smart decisions to either throw away the ball or to run it if he needed to, right? So Deshaun Watson, I think he just needs some more time to get into the groove of that ground and pound offense that is led by Kevin Stefanski. And the Cleveland Browns will should continue to become a unit later on in their career as a franchise, right? Cincinnati Bengals, however, Ricardo, they just continue to dominate. They really do. Yeah. And Joe Mixon, back for this game, 14 carries for 96 yards. Yeah. Like he never left. Same thing with Jamar Chase. Yeah, so last week was his first game back. This week, 10 receptions for 119 yards and a single touchdown. Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon is back, baby. And he is part of that dynamic trio that we can say is Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase. Not to mention Samaje Perine, right? Continuing to run as strong as possible when he needs to. And so let's mention that the Cleveland Browns have really just had a tough go at it. They started the season off pretty strong with Jacoby Brissett. All right, Brissett was showing himself to be a solid second string quarterback right behind Deshaun Watson and taking over for him. But it just seems as though they're really starting to unravel this season with the losing record. Maybe you can shine a little more light on that, Ricardo. What is something that you can say is a contributing factor to that?
Well, it's what you said at the beginning of the segment, Jose. It's a quarterback who has been out of the league for 2 years. He's still trying to find out his momentum as far as I'm talking about these 2 games early on, but I'll get earlier into the early season in just a second.
Sure.
But for these last 2 games, it's just a guy who's been out of the game for 2 years. You just expect him to learn a little bit better as it goes. But I think for the season though, Jose, what it's coming down to is that they're predicting Stefanski's offense a little bit. And he's having trouble adjusting as far as what his second punch is going to be, because the identity of this Cleveland Browns team is we're going to punch you in the teeth, we're going to run it down your throat, and you're going to have to stop us in order to stop this offense. Well, the losses they've had, there's been some games where Nick Chubb has been having a great game, but they're figuring out what he's doing. It's just it can't just be an average quarterback as far as in the back of the field. Now, it's not as simple as replace Deshaun Watson with Jacoby Brissett and things will get better. But it's coming down specifically to elite talent going on in this specific elite talent at the receiver position and at the skill position. Now, this wouldn't have been a problem had granted I love David Njoku, but Amari Cooper he's showing who he is. One game he's hot, another game he's okay. So that's just exactly who he is.
Yep.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is the one young shining star as far as what's going on. He's showing more and more potential as the year goes on. But it's just when your only guys is Amari Cooper, it leaves a lot to be desired in the passing game because I'm going to double this guy. Which other guys do you have to build off of me? And it's really showing the limitations that they have on the passing game, which is, that's what's bound to happen with the running team. But it's just, Jose, to be a play-action team, you need players that can run those play-action plays. You need receivers that'll make plays and that'll do specific stuff for you offensively. And that's the main problem with this Cleveland team is that they don't have the juice at the receiver position. And that's what's affecting them because they're becoming one-dimensional. And what we talk about every podcast, you got to be balanced. this Cleveland Brown team loves to run the ball, like that's who they are, but they lack balance because they can't throw the ball effectively. With Watson or Brissett, they just triple team to Amari Cooper and or not even triple, just double team him and see who else is gonna win games for you. Granted, David Njoku did have a decent game for this one game, but the whole season he's been inconsistent. This receiving core is just, it's mediocre. That's what it is. It's mediocre. This Cleveland Browns defense is stacked, like it's pretty good. It has some off games here and there, but they're pretty reliable. It's that receiving core. Because you finally got the quarterback, you just need the weapons to go along with it, and it's a shame that Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't what he once was in New York, because I could still see him being on this team and leading these receivers off. That's what it is, Jose. That's what it comes down to, is that for the Cleveland Browns, is that those receivers just don't have the juice, as opposed to the other team. My goodness. I mean, they were in this game without T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and it's incredible to watch. I mean, it's like Jamar Chase is going to be their one guy. You got to cover it, and he still finds a way to score a touchdown, make catches. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jose. Wasn't he gone for a couple of weeks because of an injury?
Yes.
I can't tell with these performances.
Yeah, I mean. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with Joe Mixon. It's like Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. I mean, the fact that they were coming back and it's like they never left. It's very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Mm-hmm. So my point being is that this was a huge game for the Cincinnati Bengals. When we talk about the Bengals moving forward, they've always had, this has been their nemesis. I mean, everybody knows the stat. Joe Burrow was 0-4 against the Cleveland Browns in his young career, and he had to make a point as far as how they're looking. But what I love about this game, Jose, is that they were having trouble with this Cleveland front seven and this front four, and they still only gave up one sack, man. I mean, with Myles Garrett, all those guys, like that front four, as far as like they're elite, and they only gave up one sack for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow didn't have the prettiest game, but he got rid of the ball. He was able to put the ball in key spots. And one thing the play of the game that broke this game open, that made it showing that it was going to be a Cincinnati victory, the flea flicker play, man. The flea flicker play where they threw it back and he threw it down to Trent Irwin, who's been underrated for the Cincinnati Bengals team. He's always been like a dependable fourth guy out there, like another guy you need to make a catch here and there.
Yeah.
And then, dude, I miss their tight end, but Mitchell Wilcox blocking, it's another added aspect to the Cincinnati offense that's going to help once they get their guy. His name is escaping me. I don't know why. I can't remember the tight end's name, but you know who I'm talking about. The main tight end that I was excited for them to get. But it's going to be an added aspect, and I can see them running two tight end formations to be aggressively running the football and do play actions. Because Wilcox can catch some balls too. Like, he can be a flat guy, like it's something not necessarily the main option on some plays, but I'm loving this because you're seeing the backups get reps here.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, when it comes down to meaningful football, if a guy has to come in for a play, it's not going to be the biggest thing in the world because they've had real game experience as far as, like, what they need to do in order to win the game. Our guy, Samaje Perine, I mean, look how more aggressive he is because of those time that Joe Mixon was off. Like you just said, like, he scored a touchdown and he ran hard. It's fun to watch the Cincinnati Bengals offense operate, and it's fun to watch this team operate. And my goodness, man, this defense. Who did I say was the best? Was one of their best players? Logan Wilson, 17 total tackles that game, 14 by himself, and half a sack. Whew. It's hard to watch. And then my guy, Jesse Bates, making a key interception against Deshaun Watson. Those two guys, those are the two guys I always refer to as far as for that Cincinnati defense. It's fun to watch and it's incredible to watch. And that secondary, like you said, shuts down key plays. Now, granted, it's the Cincinnati receivers, but they still shut them down, and it's incredible to watch, man. It really is.
It most definitely is, and the fact that Nick Chubb wasn't getting a big gain for a first down until the second quarter, like mid second quarter. Like that was one of his first. That was one of his first, if not the first time throughout the game, right? And let's face it, the Bengals are not just playing zone coverage anymore. They're playing some very, very tough man coverage now, and we're starting to see some aggressive defense from them, individually, right? They're playing similar to the Jets defense. They're playing similar to the Lions defense. I mean, it's fantastic, and this seems to be. Game after game, this just seems to be the week for defenses, with the exception of the Lions and the Vikings game, of course. But it just that was the theme of this week, for sure. And I'm excited to see where the Cincinnati Bengals will go too. I mean, at the very least divisional. Yeah, at the very least divisional round, right? And if they get past, and of course they get past that. We may see them in the conference championship up against the Buffalo Bills, Ricardo.
We may, but I'm loving this because Baltimore and Cincinnati are both tied right now for the division lead. And what's the final game of the season for these teams? Each other.
Yep.
So it's going to be very, very important for them to try to win games. And it's a tough schedule left for Cincinnati. Well, I would say it's an okay schedule because it's still Tom Brady. So it's still Tampa. So like they can rise to the occasion as we've seen before, but you got Tampa, at New England, Buffalo, and then to finish off with Baltimore. So Cincinnati's going to need to stay with all cylinders rolling to move into the postseason if they want to try to make another run. But I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to make the playoffs. No doubt.
It's going to be fantastic to see the Bengals in the playoffs once again. A once suffering team now starting to build itself up. And it's coming to fruition, Ricardo. So very exciting. Such a fantastic way to close off this episode. And so exciting once again to come back together and start talking about football throughout this season thus far. If you like listening to what we have to say, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video, like our other episodes. Listen to our other episodes if you would like. And everybody, we will see you next week.
See you guys.